a little while ago I put a poll up on my community tab on YouTube, and I asked you guys what videos you wanted to see. Now, you guys voted on the Hughes dress and on the drafting my own pattern. Now, as I have not quite the energy or patience to be drafting my own pattern, I thought we would tackle the first one, which is the Hughes dress. So, without further ado, let's jump straight in. Hey guys, welcome to my channel Sewing Stash. My name's Jodie, and if you are new here, welcome. We are going to be making the Hughes dress today, and I have been wanting to make this project for a very long time. Now, I have a little bit of a dilemma before we get started, and I don't know which fabrics I want to use. So I've quickly gone onto my Instagram and I've put a picture up and I've basically asked for help. So I'm hoping that people get back to me really quickly and help me decide what fabric I should use for this pattern. Now, it would probably help you to show you what fabric choices I'm kind of stuck between, wouldn't it, really? So the first one is, and you would have seen this on some of my previous videos if you have been on my channel for any length of time, and it's this teal Swiss dot fabric that I got from Hughes. Hopefully that's picking that up, and it's really nice and soft and I love it. And I want a really funky lining, so I have this option here to be the lining, and it's just got all these cute little bits all over it, and I just think that'll be really funky and cool, even if I'm the only one that sees it. And the second one is a fabric I got from Minerva, and it is this mustard with these little feathers all over it, and I just think it's absolutely gorgeous, and would love a dress out of that also. And for the lining, I have 10 meters of this cactus fabric, so you're probably going to see it more than once on this channel, but it's got all these cute little cactuses on it, and I definitely think I want this as a lining as well, and I'll also have enough to make a dress out of it as well at some point. So they're my fabric choices. Now, I definitely want to make sure that this fits me and fits me well, so I am going to do a mock-up. Now, for any of you guys who've been on my channel for any length of time, I guess, you're going to know that I tend to skip mock-ups, and I've only just started embracing the mock-up lifestyle, but it does make a huge difference. So I am going to take the time to do that. That'll also give people time to help me decide on what fabrics to use. So I think we're going to jump straight to the mock-up, or the making of the mock-up, as I've already traced out my pattern pieces, and then we're going to see how mock-up version 1 fits. So let's jump to that. Run into somewhat of a problem. So while I was cutting out this mock-up, I decided that I was going to test my shortening lines that I made by measuring from the line on the pattern that says shorten or lengthen here, and I marked on each pattern piece the same distance apart. Well, it transpires that they don't line up, and I'm not quite sure why. I know that I traced that line properly, and I double checked, but when I went to my pattern pieces, those ones don't line up. So let me show you what I mean. So here is my pattern pieces, and it has the shorten or lengthen line here, which is marked by this double line here, and this was my shorter version line that I thought that I'd marked correctly on each pattern. However, the line is different and they don't seem to match up. So for example, these two pattern pieces go together, double notches, there you go. But then this shorten or lengthen line is here, where that one's up there, which means these obviously are way off as well. And then they match up at the bottom. So I'm semi-confused by that, as to why that is. But what I've decided to do, because I have so much of this calico fabric, is I'm going to cut the full skirt in all the panels, and then in the mock-up I'm going to mark how long I want it, and then transfer that onto here because my markings are now incorrect. Also, I think, anyway, I don't quite understand. I assumed that these lines would match up. Have any of you guys made this pattern? Is there a reason for this? It's probably going to become obvious once I actually read the instructions, which I haven't done. But, you know, why do things the easy way? So I'm going to cut the full skirt out in all the pattern pieces, and at least then it will give me an idea of how actually long I want the skirt, as well as making sure that I don't do the skirt the same length all the way round. And the reason for that is obviously you don't have a bum in the front, but you do in the back, and you need a little bit of extra length in the back if, like me, you have a big booty. So that's what I'm going to do. The bodice is all cut out. I'm debating whether I finish cutting out the whole thing or do the bodice, because I just kind of want to get on with sewing. But I think I just need to cut it all out because I won't want to come back to it later. So that's the plan anyway, and that's what I've come across. So I will see you at the sewing machine. So it is 12 o'clock and all the cutting out is done. I'm only going to show a little bit of footage of me whizzing this up as quickly as possible because I want the majority of the video to be about the actual dress. So far on Instagram, the fabric of choice is the blue Swiss dot fabric, which is what I was leaning towards anyway. So I'm going to give it a little while longer while I'm making this mock-up and then see what the final verdict is. I have everything for that fabric other than the buttons. I do have some plain black buttons, but I'm not really feeling those, so I do need to source some buttons for the actual dress if that's the fabric we end up going with. Still not 100% sure yet. So anyway, I'm going to crack on, whiz through this mock-up as quickly as I can, which, knowing me, isn't going to be that quick because I'm not the fastest of sewers. But yeah, I'm going to crack on with this mock-up and then I will come back to you once we try it on. And this is why we do mock-ups, people. So I've just done the bodice so far, and the finished measurements of this garment for the bust is a 48, and I have double checked my measurements and I'm still a 46, but it's a bit tight. Well, I say I'm a 46, I'm a 46 and a half, nearly 47 if I breathe out, but it's still very tight there across the actual apex. So rather than cut the bigger size up, because if I do that it's not going to fit me in the shoulders, I am going to let out some of this seam here and then see how much I need to add, and then I'm going to do a probably not a full bust adjustment because the this part of the garment anyway that I traced out was for a C to D cup, which is what I am in sewing patterns, but I'm going to make a bust adjustment for this bit. Thankfully I have just brought a new book that's going to help me with that. So yeah, I'm glad I did a mock-up. Every time I do a mock-up I'm just like, actually it was a good job I did, rather than cut into my nice fabric. So yeah, I'd rather know this now than later. So I'm going to faff around with this, let some seams out, see what my book's saying about bust adjustments, and then I'll get back to you. So a little disclaimer, the next shot is going to be of my ladies, but it's just so I can show you where I'm at with this mock-up. So what I've done is I've let the seam allowance out by 0.5 centimetre, both sides, and so that's made the seam allowance sit where it should do. And then what I've done, I haven't obviously pinned this time, I've just crossed it over, tried to line up the dots, but this is how much seam allowance, well, how much extra I'm going to have to add into the pattern here and here. So that's where I'm at. I mean, I've got this gaping here, but I can always take that out from the top there if needs be. But then I also haven't added in the sleeve either yet. So what I'm going to do first is make the adjustments to the pattern. Now, do I know how to do that? No. But that's fine. So I've got 2 books on fitting. So I actually get to practice these skills, and it was one of my goals for 2022 to fit better clothing. So I'm going to go away and do a little bit of research. I'm going to work out how to adjust the pattern and how I make those adjustments, etc, etc. Then I'm going to have to recut the bodice and try it again. I'm not going to mess around with the skirt because worst case scenario I can just make a smaller seam allowance on the skirt panels, so I'm not really worried about that. But the first thing I'm going to do is get this bodice to fit me and to fit me well. So I guess I'm going to go off and do that, and then I will see you for mock-up number 2. So I thought I would show you the types of books that I'm using to do my bust adjustment. The first book I've got is the Perfect Fitting book, and it is good, and it comes with all these detailed illustrations and things like that. But this pattern book doesn't have the same princess lines as the one that I'm using. It might do further on, but I feel like I'm having to jump back and forth. So here's what I mean is their princess lines go all the way at the top where mine curve underneath the seam. So I can still use this. It is a really good reference book and it's got some great detailed pictures. However, recently I made a purchase of a book called Ahead of the Curve by Jenny Rushmore. She's the creator of the Cashmeretta patterns, and I have found that this book is absolutely amazing. It also, thankfully, if I turn this page, tells me how to do a full bust adjustment for the exact pattern pieces that I'll be using. And obviously I'm using a Friday Pattern Company, not a Cashmeretta pattern, but the pieces are the same. So I'm actually going to use this book to do my bust adjustments, so I don't have to flick around through chapters. It's all here, clear as day. So if you guys are interested in this book, I'll leave a link in the description down below. I absolutely find it fabulous. I found this as a recommendation, I think in a sewing magazine, and it is really good. And it also comes with 5 free patterns. So, in sizes 16 to 36 if anyone is interested. And she does cater for a bigger bust. So that's going to be my plan now. I'm going to read through all this and make my necessary adjustments and changes, and then we can move on to mock-up. So I finally finished my adjustments to this pattern, and at the end of the instructions it does tell you that this actually adds seam allowance to the waist. So I will not be narrowing the seams when I come to sew this up on my mock-up. It does, however, mean that I might have to do a smaller seam allowance for the skirt pattern pieces when I come to do those, but I'll cross that bridge when I come to it. So this is the finished product. This pattern piece is considerably bigger than its predecessor, and this one has also been extended by the amount that I've done this one. So yeah, I'm quite happy with that. I think that I'm going to leave it there for today. I'm actually starting to feel a little bit unwell, like cold symptoms, so I definitely want an early night. So I'm quite happy with how far I got, even though I wish that I would have got a bit further, in all honesty. I was expecting to have like at least done mock-up 2, but as I've very rarely altered patterns, it's taken me a lot longer. But that's okay, that's fine, that's all part of learning. So anyway, I am happy with what I've achieved today. I'm hoping that I'm going to be well enough to pick this up again tomorrow. But yeah, I'm gonna go have a cup of tea and have a little relax, and I shall see you hopefully tomorrow. Good morning. It is Thursday the 6th of January, I think that's right. And we are on mock-up number 2 today. It's a little bit later in the day than I was hoping for. It's 10:15, and I was hoping to be well underway by now, but never mind. So all I have to do today for the second mock-up is cut out the centre front and the side panel, which was the bust one that we made the adjustments on yesterday, and put them on the mock-up. I then have to also expand the width of the skirt on the, I think it's going to be the side, not the side panel, but the front side panel, because the bust, the D shape pass and piece has added extra width, so I need to make sure I add that to the skirt panel itself as well. So I'm going to do that, but yeah, we'll get the bodice done first. Once I'm happy with the bodice, I'm going to put the sleeve on and make sure that fits okay, and then we can actually start looking at the skirt, and then hopefully by the end of today I want all the mock-ups done, and then start on the actual garment tomorrow. So that's going to be the plan. So I'm going to crack on and cut these out and get these stitched to the mock-up, and then we'll see where we're at. So bodice number 2 is done, and I have to say I'm really happy with it. Now you have to ignore the Madonna boob because I haven't actually clipped the curves of this mock-up, so it looks like I've got a bit of a Madonna boob there, but that's just because the curves aren't clipped. But this fits really nicely. This overlaps really nicely. My boobs don't feel squished. Feel like I've got a little bit of room in there. It still sits nice and flat at the top, and I think that once the sleeves are in, let's try this angle here, that this won't be an issue, but even if it is, I can just take a little bit out. So I am really chuffed with this. It sits nice and I've got a bit of room, and yes. So what I need to do now, before I make the skirt, is I need to get the front side panel, and I need to alter that because it has made a huge difference in terms of the pattern. There's a good, I think, 2 inches difference, so I'm going to have to recut that part of the skirt, otherwise it's just not going to fit. So I'm going to go do that quickly, and then I'm going to pop this together just to get that overall idea. I'm going to pop on a sleeve. I don't normally do it this detailed. What I'd normally do is write the bodice fits, because the skirt is not fitted whatsoever and it's nice and flowy. I would just, you know, scrap that, but I do need to make the skirt panel wider by the same width that I've done the side panel, the front side panel on this mock-up. So that's not going to take me too long. I'm going to quickly recut that. I think I've got just about enough fabric. If I haven't, I'm going to end up with 1 short panel, and I don't care because, like I said, it's a mock-up, so that's fine. Yeah, so I'm pretty chuffed. I think this is my first proper full bust adjustment, and yeah, I'm pretty chuffed, so great news. So I'm going to go off and do that, and then I'll come back to you once it's all sewn up, and then we can start on the actual dress itself. Mock-up number 2 is now done. I have the sleeve in with this, got a little bit of poof there, and the bodice fits really nicely. Obviously it's awkwardly pinned, so it doesn't look very nice at the moment, but I'm quite happy with it. And this skirt is great. I've marked the length of how much I'm short in the skirt, so from the bottom of the pattern I'm going to take off 13 inches. I also want to use a narrower seam allowance for from the waist outwards, so it flares out a little bit more. It's quite a straighter pattern than I thought it was going to be, and I want mine to flare out somewhat, so I'm going to just use a narrower seam allowance after the after I've sewed it to the bodice, and then it will flare out at the bottom a little bit, not dramatically, but a little bit. So I'm quite happy with that. I think now it's time to wash the fabric. Now, in terms of fabric, I didn't get a huge response in terms of people helping me pick which fabric. So initially I was going to go with the blue because one person responded to me and they said the blue. Now I've just taken the blue out and I thought I had 3 meters, but it really doesn't look like 3 meters and it's very narrow. So I don't think I'm going to actually be able to squeeze this dress out of it. So what I've gone for instead is the mustard fabric with the feathers, and then this as the lining, which I know is a bit random, but I wanted a quirky lining. So I'm gonna go serge the edges of those and then shove them in the washing machine, and I think by the time they're done it's gonna be too late to get started, so I'm gonna leave it here for now, get the fabric all washed, and we will pick this up again tomorrow. So I'll see you then. Hey, it's Editing Jodie here to interrupt this video. Now it is this point that I have realised that this video is really overrunning and it's just on the mock-up alone.
I knew this was gonna happen. I knew it.
Far 21 minutes and 45 seconds. So what I've decided to do is make this a 2-part video. So this first part of the video is obviously going to be about the mock-up, and the second part of the video is going to be the actual dress itself. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you watch part 2 and I'll see you next time. Bye.